The pounding on his apartment door at 9:47 p.m. made David Carter nearly drop the worn teddy bear he was tucking beside his sleeping 6-year-old daughter. Who could be here this late? As the knocking grew more insistent, he gently closed Lily's bedroom door and hurried through the cluttered living room, stepping over building blocks and half-finished art projects. When he opened the door, his heart plummeted to his stomach. There stood Eliza Winters, CEO of WinterTech Solutions and his direct boss for the past 4 years, her normally composed face flushed with what looked like anger. "You're fired," she announced, her voice echoing in the narrow hallway. If you're already wondering how this single dad's world is about to be turned upside down, hit that like button and subscribe now. This story of misunderstandings, second chances, and unexpected love is one you won't want to miss. Let's dive deeper into David's journey. David stood frozen, his mind racing through every project deadline, every meeting, every email he might have missed while juggling single parenthood and his demanding career as a software engineer. After losing his wife Claire to cancer 2 years ago, he'd been walking a tightrope, desperately trying not to fall. And now, it seemed, he had failed spectacularly. "Ms. Winters, please," he stammered, lowering his voice to avoid waking Lily. "Whatever I did, I can fix it. I need this job. Lily needs." "That's exactly the problem, David," Eliza interrupted, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. "You're not listening. You haven't been listening for months." Before David could respond, a small voice called from behind him. "Daddy? Who's at the door?" Lily stood in the hallway, rubbing sleep from her eyes, her favorite stuffed elephant dragging on the floor beside her. Her dark curls, so like her mother's, were tousled from sleep, and her Wonder Woman pajamas were rumpled. David's protective instincts flared. "It's just someone from work, sweetie. Go back to bed, okay?" But Lily, with the curiosity that defined her 6-year-old existence, padded forward instead. "Are you Daddy's boss?" she asked Eliza directly, tilting her head. "He talks about you a lot." Eliza's stern expression softened immediately as she knelt to Lily's level. "Yes, I am. And you must be Lily. Your dad has pictures of you on his desk. Are you firing my daddy?" Lily asked, her lower lip trembling slightly. "Because he works really hard. Sometimes he stays up all night doing his computer stuff after I go to bed." David felt his chest tighten with both love for his daughter's defense and mortification at the situation. "Lily, honey, it's complicated grown-up stuff. Let's get you back to." "That's exactly why I'm here," Eliza said, her voice gentler now. She looked up at David, something unreadable in her expression. "May I come in? I think we need to talk." Reluctantly, David stepped aside, acutely aware of the dishes piled in the sink, the laundry basket overflowing in the corner, and the general chaos of a home managed by a single parent working 60-hour weeks. Eliza entered, her designer suit and perfect posture looking utterly out of place among the cheerful disarray. "Lily, how about you show me your room while your dad makes us some tea?" Eliza suggested, surprising both Carter family members. Lily's face lit up. "I have a science corner. Daddy helped me make a solar system that glows in the dark." As his daughter led his boss down the hallway, David hurried to the kitchen, mind racing. What was happening? Was this some strange professional courtesy, letting him down gently in his own home rather than in the sterile conference room at WinterTech? He filled the kettle with shaking hands, listening to Lily's animated chatter and Eliza's warm responses. 15 minutes later, after Lily had proudly shown off her room and been tucked back into bed with promises of just 5 more minutes, that stretched to 20, David and Eliza sat across from each other at his small kitchen table, steaming mugs between them. "I don't understand," David said finally, breaking the uncomfortable silence. "If you're firing me, why are you here at my apartment at nearly 10 o'clock? Why not just call me into your office tomorrow?" Eliza sighed, wrapping her hands around her mug. "Because you wouldn't have heard me there either. David, I've been trying to talk to you for weeks. I've sent emails, left notes, scheduled meetings that you've either rescheduled or attended while simultaneously answering messages on your phone. David flinched. It was true. He'd been stretched so thin that multitasking had become his only mode of operation. I've been meeting all my deadlines, he defended weakly. At what cost? Eliza asked, leaning forward. You look exhausted. Your team members are worried about you. You've lost weight. And tonight, when you missed the company gala where you were supposed to receive the Innovation Award for your work on the Nexus project, I realized drastic measures were needed. David blinked. The gala. It had completely slipped his mind, buried under Lily's science project deadline, a plumbing emergency in the bathroom, and the final debugging of the Nexus code. I forgot, he admitted, shame washing over him. That's not why I'm firing you, Eliza said, her voice firm but not unkind. I'm firing you from working 80-hour weeks. I'm firing you from skipping lunch breaks. I'm firing you from thinking you have to do everything alone. Confusion replaced shame as David tried to process her words. I don't understand. Let me be clearer, Eliza said, setting down her mug. Effective immediately, you're required to work no more than 40 hours per week. You'll delegate at least 30% of your current workload to the 2 junior developers we hired last month. You'll take your lunch breaks away from your desk. And you'll accept the company's remote work option for 2 days a week so you can be home when Lily gets out of school. David stared at her, speechless. These weren't the terms of termination, they were lifelines. But, why? He managed finally. The Nexus project deadline has been extended by 2 weeks, Eliza finished for him. Which I've been trying to tell you for days. The client requested additional features, which gives us more time and additional budget. Time you're going to use to remember that you're human, not just a coding machine. The kindness in her voice broke something in David. For 2 years since Claire's death, he'd been running on autopilot, pouring himself into work and parenting with single-minded determination, never allowing himself to slow down because slowing down meant feeling the grief, the loneliness, the overwhelming responsibility of raising Lily alone. I don't know how to do this any other way, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. If I slow down, if I let myself think too much, you might fall apart, Eliza finished softly. I know. I've been there. For the first time, David really looked at his boss, not as the intimidating CEO whose approval he sought, but as a person. You have? Eliza nodded, a shadow crossing her face. My husband died in a car accident 6 years ago. Before I founded Winter Tech. I threw myself into building the company because it was easier than building a life without him. The revelation stunned David. In 4 years of working for her, he'd never known this about Eliza. She'd always seemed so composed, so complete unto herself. What changed? He asked. A small smile touched her lips. My sister showed up at my apartment one night and told me I was fired from grieving alone. Not unlike what I'm doing with you now. She reached across the table, hesitating before placing her hand over his. It gets better, David. Not easier, necessarily, but better. And you don't have to figure it out alone. Something warm and unfamiliar bloomed in David's chest, not quite hope, but perhaps its precursor. I wouldn't even know where to start, he admitted. You start by accepting help, Eliza said simply. Which is why I brought this. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. The company's family support program. Childcare subsidies, flexible scheduling options, and the contact information for the parents' network, other Winter Tech employees who are balancing careers and kids. David stared at the folder, then back at Eliza. Why are you doing this? You could have just written me up for missing the gala. Eliza was quiet for a moment, considering her words. Because I see myself in you. Because Lily deserves a father who's present, not just physically but emotionally. And because you're too valuable to Winter Tech to lose to burnout. She paused, then added more softly, and maybe because everyone deserves someone who cares enough to knock on their door and tell them when they're destroying themselves. The weeks that followed were a period of awkward but necessary adjustment for David. Delegating tasks he'd always handled himself felt like relinquishing control. Leaving work at 5 felt like abandoning ship. Taking lunch breaks away from his desk made him twitchy with unproductive guilt. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. He was home to help Lily with homework without bleary eyes and a distracted mind. He had energy to cook real meals instead of relying on takeout and frozen dinners. He joined the Winter Tech Parents Group and found himself exchanging childcare tips and school recommendations with colleagues he'd barely spoken to before. And then there was Eliza. What had begun as a professional intervention evolved into something more complex. She checked in regularly, not just about work but about how he was managing the changes. She invited him and Lily to a company picnic where his daughter delighted in meeting other Winter Tech kids. She recommended books that had helped her through grief, leaving them on his desk with simple notes. This chapter on page 86 saved me. 3 months after that night at his door, David found himself actually looking forward to the annual Winter Tech charity auction. Lily was spending the evening with her best friend's family, and for the first time in years, David had bought a new suit, gotten a haircut, and arrived at an event without his laptop bag. He spotted Eliza across the elegantly decorated hotel ballroom, striking in a deep blue gown, confidently directing staff and greeting major donors. Their eyes met, and her professional smile warmed into something more personal as she made her way toward him. "You came," she said, genuine pleasure in her voice. "I set 3 calendar reminders and had Lily quiz me about it all week," David admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "I'm trying." "I can see that," Eliza replied, her eyes taking in his new suit and relaxed posture. "It looks good on you." "What does?" "Balance," she said simply. As the evening progressed, David found himself enjoying the event rather than counting the minutes until he could escape. He bid on a weekend cabin getaway package in the silent auction, thinking how much Lily would love exploring the hiking trails. He chatted with colleagues about things other than code and deadlines. And when the band started playing, he surprised himself by asking Eliza to dance. "I should warn you," he said as they moved onto the dance floor, "I haven't done this since my wedding." "Then we'll take it slow," she replied, placing her hand in his. They moved together awkwardly at first, then with growing confidence. David felt a strange mixture of guilt and liberation, guilt that he could feel this comfortable with another woman after Claire, liberation that his heart apparently still knew how to do more than just survive. "Thank you," he said suddenly, the words tumbling out before he could overthink them. "For firing me that night. For caring enough to show up." Eliza's eyes softened. "Sometimes we all need someone to tell us when we're missing what matters." "And what matters?" David asked, suddenly needing to hear her answer. "Connection," she said without hesitation. "To others, to ourselves, to moments like this." She paused, then added more carefully, "I don't want to overstep, David, but I think Claire would want you to live fully again, not just exist." The mention of his late wife's name from Eliza's lips should have